there were many requests on how to do a multi-node installation, or how to add a new node to an existing cluster, or how to add a second node onto the current Tableau server installation that you already have. So I'm going to show you how you can add a new node to an existing single node infrastructure that you have, the single node Tableau server that you have. So if you have followed my previous videos on how to install a Tableau server on a Windows server, so this is an extension to that one, wherein we are going to add one more node to a single node system. So before we go to do that, let's see what are the prerequisites, or what are the requirements that we need to have in place before we start the actual procedure. Software version. So let us suppose you have a 2020.4.1 running on your existing single node installation. So you need to have the same version on the in your node also, the node which you are going to use. Installation location. So if you have done the installation on C drive, the new node also we are going to do on the same drive. So we don't change the installation location. Also the networking and ports. Let's say you have node 1 and node 2. So we know that Tableau server has specific set of processes, and each process runs on a different port. Let's suppose a gateway which runs on 80, or if it is SSL which takes the request on 443, and your TSM which runs on 8850. Likewise, we have different processes which runs on different ports, and also between two nodes in the cluster. So the existing node and the new node that we are going to add, these two nodes need to communicate with each other, which means let's say all of the processes that are there on the node 2 needs to communicate with your TSM administration controller, which runs on 8850 on node 1. So likewise, there are different ports that need to be opened for communication across these two nodes. Service account. So we know all of the Windows installations will require a different service account to run all of the Tableau services. If you don't use a specific service account for Tableau server installation, you can go with the default one, whichever gets with the installation. So if you have used a different service account on node 1 or a single node installation previously, make sure you have the same service account has access to the node 2 also, so that your installation or the addition of node will go smooth and successful. Domain and login accounts. If you have your existing single node is an Active Directory domain, so you need to make sure your new nodes, whatever nodes that you're going to add, those nodes also should be under the same domain. If you have used the work group, which it doesn't belong to any domain, let's say the both of the servers doesn't belong to any domain, so you can do the installation in that way also. So either if you have a domain, make sure both the servers are at the same domain. If work group, then make sure the login accounts, nothing but the local admin account which we are going to use for the administration activities, or which we are going to use for the installation procedures, that administrator account should be same on both the servers, and also the password also should be same for the both the local accounts on the two different servers that we are going to use. So these are all the requirements or prerequisites, I would say, which you need to have in place before we start the actual process of adding another node to the existing single node infrastructure. This is my node 1. So where I have already all of the processes that are up and running, and I do have my single node configured completely, and it is up and running without any issues. Now my requirement is like I would want to add another node to this existing single node. So what I would do as a first step, I'll go on to the configuration, and under the topology section, if you look at here under the topology section, so we have a specific set of procedures that we can follow here. Add a new node. So what is the first step here? You need to download the bootstrap file, which we will upload during the installation procedure on the second node. That bootstrap file we will download here. Save as. So keep it under document. So you can give any name, doesn't really matter. Save it. Okay, so under document, you have your Bootstrap file. So I'm gonna copy it. I'm going to my second node and I'll paste it under maybe desktop. Yeah, so I've got my Bootstrap file here. So as I said, the first prerequisites that I need to follow, the version should be same. So I have already downloaded the Tableau Server setup file onto my node 2 and I'm going to run it as an administrator. On node 1, which is my initial node, I have done the installation on the default directory itself. I'm going to use the same path. So in general, so when we do the first node installations or when we do a single node installations or when we do the installation for the first time, you select create new Tableau server installation. But in this case, we are going to add an additional node to the existing cluster. So I'll select the second option and then I click install. At this point, it will take a while in order to do the further processing. So meanwhile, we'll just relook at whatever the prerequisites are. So one, we need to have the same software, which is like the version has to be same on the second node or the third node or the fourth node that you're going to use. Also, the domain is very important because if you have used an Active Directory in the first case and the second node also, it has to be connected to the same domain. And the login accounts are the local administrator accounts on both the servers, or if you have three different server, on each and every server you have to have the same administrator account with the same password. And if at all you are using a specific or a generic service account for run as user, you need to have the same account on the second and third nodes also to make it as a successful installation. And networking and ports, as we know, Tableau server in the backend, it has n number of processes that runs like SQL server, gateway, portal, coordination service, and also the TSM admin controller. Likewise, there are many processes that runs in the background. So we need to make the ports opened among these two servers or among multiple servers that we use under a cluster. In the organizations, so it is our network team or sometimes the servers team who takes care of the all of the servers. So they will take care of all of these requirements. We need to tell them what ports needs to be opened, like in between these servers, what are the ports that needs to be opened. So how do you know what ports that you need require access to? You just go to Google Tableau server ports. Okay, so you go to this one. So here see, you will see the list of ports that will be used by Tableau for different communications across. Let's say for 80, which is for gateway, 443 for SSL communication, 8850 for your TSM, 8060 for the Postgres, and 8000 to 9000 dynamic range, any port in between these two it can use. Also 27000 to 27009, it will be used by the licensing server mostly. So between your node 1 and node 2, all of these ports have to be opened. So let's see, it's still going on. Once this process completes, then it will ask us for the bootstrap file and as well as the username and password for the TSM admin. So meanwhile, let's go and let's have a look at the bootstrap file. So what it really consists of. So let's go to bootstrap file, what you can do, you can open it with WordPad or maybe any other application similar to Notepad maybe. So I'll stick to Notepad. So on the first line it says on which port your Tableau TSM administration controller is running. So 8850. And what is the cluster ID? So most of the cases it is tab svc hyphen, sorry, tab svc will be your cluster. So meanwhile it has been completed and it is asking us for the bootstrap file. So let me browse the bootstrap file which is there in desktop, and the TSM username and password from node 1. And also the same bootstrap file will consist of what machine, nothing but where your node 1 is running. So that will also be there in your bootstrap file. So it's like which port your TSM is running and on what server your TSM is running, initial node. So all of these details will be there in your bootstrap file. So if you look at the bootstrap file, so the node 1 machine address is there, machine address. But how does my node 2 will know which IP address that was running from my node 1? Nothing but, okay, in the meanwhile it's got completed. Okay, so we have given bootstrap file and TSM administrator and also the password. It has directly opened the TSM topology page. Let's log in. Okay, so new node detected, a new node has been detected, and go to the configuration page and configure the node. So here you can see this is our node 1. So this is a new node, but it's showing as node 3 because I have added and removed a node previously which was node 3. So it took node 3 instead of node 2 because of that reason. Node 3, you can see it doesn't have any processes configured. Only we can see all of the processes only for your node 1. That is because your new node has been just added and it doesn't have any processes which we need to do. Now I'm going to configuration. Here you can see when I clicked on configuration, it immediately identified what is the server name and also how many number of cores that specific server has. And it says the Tableau server has detected a new node in the cluster. So I'll click continue to move forward. Okay, so here you can see my new node, which is 9923, nothing but this one. It takes the host name. So what we were discussing earlier, how does as these are the Amazon AWS EC2 instances. So if I give a host name, how do my one host recognizes the other host? So that is because I have modified the hosts file in this place, system32 drivers etc, in order to reflect the IP address of that specific server. Otherwise it will not know. If I edit it, you will see. So on my node 2, I added my node 1 IP address with respect to its system name, and on node 1 vice versa, I have added my node 2's IP address with respect to its system name. So that's how your AWS machines will identify one another. Otherwise there is no way your installation will go fail if you don't add these hostname entries. So what do you do in order to add your hostname entries? So this is your hostname and this is your public IP address. So this one is your public IP address. You need to add these two entries in the node 1, and right now we are on node 2. I have added these two entries of node 1 into my node 2 like this, so that your servers will recognize one another with the host names also. So after that, I have added a new node with this, with the process, whatever we have seen so far. So now coming back to adding the additional node processes, now you can see there are all of the processes in node, new node are zeros. So what I can do, I can add whatever the processes that I would like to add. I can add gateway, I can add application server, I can add SQL server, I can add what processes that I would require on my new node. I can add all the processes, but for now, I just keep only the gateway maybe, and then I go to pending changes and simply I will apply changes and restart. So what I did, I added a new node onto cluster and I'm increasing the processes on the new node also, just only the gateway, just to make sure the cluster installation has been done without any issues. You can add all of these processes like file store, data engine, except repository, all of the other processes you can add as many as you want based on your number of cores. Based on the number of cores only, you can add multiple processes across. But just for now, I am adding only the gateway process just to make sure the configuration that was done so far or the installation that was done so far is smooth and successful. Afterwards, we can play around, increase the process here in node 1, decrease the process in node 2, decrease the process in node 1. So we can play as we want going forward. Here you can see new node configurations have been updated. So if I go to status page, gateway and cluster controller also has been added onto the new node. If I log in, http localhost, I'm able to do http localhost from node 2 as well. That's because I have gateway process on node 2 as well, nothing but the node 3, right? So admin, administrator. Okay. So here you can see the new node, even in the status page, you can see how the new node has been added to the existing single node infrastructure. So now, so it is up to us how many or what kind of processes that you want to span across onto the other new node that we have just added. So you can add application servers, or you can add the SQL, or you can add the file store so that it replicates the extracts across onto the other new node also, or you can increase the number of backgrounders on this node also. So it is up to you what number of processes that you want to spin up on the new node that we have just added. So this is how we do multi-node installations for the Tableau server. So we added one more node, which makes it a two node architecture kind of system, but it is not a high availability system, because on a two node system, so as you can see, you can increase all of the other nodes, but when it comes to the repository, you cannot select a repository on node 2. That's because you cannot have, you can always have only one repository until two node. Only when you add the third node onto the system, nothing but you make it as a three node architecture system, then only you can have a repository as a high available system. So this is, so a two node system is mostly for the load balancing. Like let's say, okay, I'll dedicate one node to the complete backgrounders and the other nodes to the complete the visual processing, so that the users who are viewing the dashboards and the rendering of the dashboards happen, it will not impact my backgrounder extract refreshes that happen in the backend, or maybe huge or heavy sized data extract refreshes that happen in the backend shouldn't impact my actual user experience, which is because the SQL servers. So those kind of load balancing I can achieve with two node also, but not as a high availability system. So thank you for watching my Ask Lakshmi YouTube channel. So whatever comments you have, you can put in the below comment section, or what kind of videos you would like to see more. Those also you can put in the comment section. I'll try to make those videos also. Thank you so much.